Hey everyone, welcome back to part 3 of this trilogy. If you've made it this far, you are kind of my hero, especially if you made it through the second video in this trilogy, which was epically long, but I feel like it had lots of pictures and things to kind of be interesting, I hope. If you haven't seen the first 2 videos, I will link the first one here, and then obviously the second one's linked from that. So the last video left off where we left England and moved to New Zealand. So I'll talk about our homes in New Zealand. Our first home was our 19 Powershot place in Pukekohe, which is South Auckland. We were looking online for houses to rent before we even moved to New Zealand, and we were a little bit disheartened. We'd see a house that we could afford and it was in a really rough part of town, or it was really run down, or there was just nothing really suitable. And then we saw this house come up on Trade Me, which is where we were looking, and we had a friend in Pukekohe who was giving us a bit of advice, and she went around to the open day to have a look, and she said, "You guys, this house is great, like, you want to grab this." So we put in our application and we were accepted and we could rent that house. We actually rented it for a month before we even arrived in New Zealand. That is when the start of the lease was, but it was worth it to us to have the house standing empty and paying rent on it, just to know that we'd secured it and that we had a home to come to when we moved over. So we arrived in Auckland. My friend Amanda collected us from the airport at like 10 p.m. I think. We slept over at her house, and then the next day she drove us down to Pukekohe, and we got the keys from Nick and we could go into our house and move in. So we were paying $395 a week in rent, and we were only there for 1 year and 5 months, I think. It was a 3-bedroom house with a bathroom and an ensuite, double garage, kind of a new build. It was in good condition. It didn't have heating, and of course there's very rarely double glazing here in New Zealand, so it was kind of cold. And initially we didn't have any furniture or anything because our container took 12 weeks to come from England to New Zealand. We had kind of sent everything about 6 weeks before we left England, but we had another 6 weeks in New Zealand before our stuff arrived. So we were lent mattresses and bedding and a table and chairs and a TV and a sofa and a fridge and a microwave. I think, yeah, we were lent a microwave as well, and pots and pans and cutlery and crockery. It was so amazing that people we didn't even know lent us these things. My friend Nick arranged it, and we'll always be grateful to her for helping us start out in New Zealand. So here you can see a few pictures of how we were set up. In the bedrooms we had mattresses on the floor. I think one of the kids was on an air mattress, I can't remember. We were lent blankets and pillows and towels, like I mentioned. So we had a few things to get by with, but it was hard, I'm not gonna lie. It was hard. It was cold, we didn't have our things, we were bored. Obviously we had the library and things like that, but the kids didn't have their toys, and we spent a lot of time going out so that we weren't in the house because it was kind of depressing. And then finally, literally one of the best days of my life, no exaggeration, our container arrived. It was amazing. I actually like wanted to kiss the guys who delivered it, and I think I told them so. That was awkward. So we finally got all our stuff and we were able to unpack and build furniture and put everything back together again and start to make it a home. I'll show you some pictures here. Here's the kitchen. It was very kind of basic and bland and neutral, so I added a few colorful touches. I had sprinkles on a shelf, and I printed out some colorful pictures, that like photographs I'd taken, and put those on the wall. There was a red tin that I took the lid off and I painted white dots on, so it was like red and white polka dots to put my utensils in, and I just made it a little bit more cheerful and put a bit more personality into it. In the dining room we had our table, which has a very scarred and scratched and ugly tabletop. I just felt like paint would be even more high maintenance and get scratched if my coffee table's anything to go by. So this tablecloth is Cath Kidston oilcloth fabric, and I found it on eBay, and I asked my friend in England to send it to me, like I would pay her with PayPal, to buy this fabric because it was a per meter price that I was okay with. So I asked her to buy this fabric and then post it to me, and I had the money in my PayPal account, and she took so long to do it that I ended up spending that money on something else. And then eventually she sent me an email saying, "I've bought the fabric and I've sent it, and this is how much it cost," and like I didn't actually have the money there to pay for it. I had to obviously take it out of our bank account to pay, and it ended up costing $150 with shipping. It was ridiculous. So this is like the most expensive tablecloth ever. I could probably have bought a new table for that. Actually, that's a lie. Everything's so expensive in New Zealand, I couldn't have. So anyway, I got my polka dot tablecloth, and the kids have already destroyed it with like permanent marker that I couldn't get off and all sorts of things. But that's my polka dot tablecloth, and I'm going to use it probably till I die because of how much it cost. In the living room, we had these little bedside table units that we lined up against one wall. So this made storage in the living room, and we had our sofas, and this is my little office area that I had, which was quite handy. It was just like a little alcove off the living room, and it had a closet so I could store my photography equipment there, because I did start up my portrait photography business again, but I specialized in newborns. Daniel's bedroom was a bit of a tight squeeze. He had the double bed in there, but that was handy when we had guests, because then he could go and sleep on the bunk bed in Noah's room, and we had basically a guest room. I made this duvet cover for him. He was always drawing these like made up figures inspired by Pokemon, so I took loads of his drawings and I traced them onto a duvet cover for a custom made duvet with all of his artwork. Noah's room had the bunk beds, like I said, and a chest of drawers. All of the rooms had built-in closets. Ours had a walk-in closet, which was really nice. And for Noah's room, I made this fire engine bed tent. It fastened onto the bunk beds and it made it look like a fire engine, as you can see. And he enjoyed it, and it was quite good because there were vertical blinds on the windows, but they weren't blackout or anything. So in the summer, obviously the room would still be quite light when he went to bed, and it would be quite light early in the morning. So having the bed tent meant that his bed was nice and dark. Our bedroom, our chests of drawers that we were using as nightstands in our last house in England, didn't actually fit next to the bed like as bedside tables. So we put them on the other side of the room, and then I made bedside tables from 2 little pine tables that I had been given. I think I was given them. I made them taller with extra wood, and then I made skirts on them and painted the top. You can see them here. We had an ensuite and a walk-in closet, like I said. So here's the ensuite. Very small, nothing flash, but everything was clean and neat and modern. And here's the bathroom. I had this like sun-shaped frame, which used to be a mirror originally with a gold frame, and then I turned it into a clock in our last house in England. And then in this house, I laminated a picture of the boys just to withstand the moisture, and I put that in instead and had it like as a picture frame. And next to the shower, I had this thrifted vase, which kind of reminded me of sea glass. It was like an aqua color, and I just did an arrangement of driftwood in it. So that's how we kind of decorated as much as we could, because obviously we were just renting. By the way, I have actually filmed a house tour if you want to see it, so I will link that over here. Some of the memories I have in that house were building this unit, which I made to store wetsuits and things in the garage. I was pulling apart pallets to do so, and I was working in Crocs, and I very stupidly stepped on a 4-inch nail which went all the way through my foot. It started to pierce out of the top of my foot. That was not fun, and I had to go and have x-rays because they wanted to be sure that this rusty old nail hadn't scratched the bone, because that can be quite serious. You can end up with a bone infection, but luckily that was all clear. Other memories were tidying up the garden a little bit. I put in 2 tiny little raised beds that my friend Amanda's father made for me, and I put in edging along the bed and just neatened things up a little bit. I also had a few newborn portrait sessions, and so this is how I set everything up when that was happening. The kind of worst memory of being in that house, which is not specific to the house, but it's just where we were when it happened, was Grant had to go away for 4.5 months to police training college 6 weeks after we arrived in New Zealand. So that was a really, really tough time, one of the hardest times in my life, being away from him, having kids that were missing their dad, trying to get settled in this brand new country. But anyway, that time passed, obviously, as times do, good times and bad. And we were trying to get settled and put down roots and just get used to our new life. And then we found out that the landlord had decided to sell the house. So we'd only been in the country, I think 15 months when we heard this news. And we didn't know if someone was going to buy the house who wanted to live there, or if another investor was going to buy the house and keep us on as tenants. And if they did do that, whether or not they were going to keep the rent the same. So we decided to look for another house to live in. And we found 35 Carlton Road in Pukekohe, which was at the top of a cul-de-sac, and 4 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, but a laundry room with a toilet as well. and it had a big section of land. It had beautiful views. I'll show you the views in a minute. And we thought this was a bargain because it was $390 a week. So it was $5 a week less than we were paying in our previous house. So we made the move and got settled in there. And round about that time is when I became extremely ill with adrenal fatigue and all of the consequences of that. So some of my memories of this house was lying in bed, unable to move, unable to even hold a book up because I was so exhausted, unable to really do anything. But it was also a place of healing as I kind of overcame that and rebuilt my life basically. We lived in that house for 2 years and 6 months. I really enjoyed that house. It was a 1960s house, brick. It had, like I said, 4 bedrooms. It had a living room. This is what the living room looked like. It was quite comfortable. It was at the opposite end of the house to the kitchen though, which was kind of weird. But we enjoyed this living room. It had beautiful views. These are the views we enjoyed. And the thing about a view is, like pictures on your wall, you stop noticing after a while. But a view changes all of the time depending on the weather and the time of day and what the light's doing. So it just never got old. We really enjoyed that view. This is how the kitchen looked. Wasn't a huge fan of the green, but it was quite neat and tidy. It was a good size and everything worked fine. This is how the dining room looked. This was kind of open plan onto the kitchen. We didn't actually use that wood stove because all of the heat just went straight up the chimney, and it wasn't very effective at heating the house. So we had the dining room table there, and then on the other side of the dining room we had our office area. Then through the doorway from the kitchen there was like a little vestibule, and in this vestibule there was a doorway onto the laundry room. So this is how I decorated the laundry room. I made like a little fake blind or valance over the pull down blind, and I made signs, and I made these 2 pieces of artwork that I had. I painted them navy and put string on and pegged up some photos just to add a bit of interest and brightness to the room. It also didn't have a counter over the washer and dryer, so I made that and put that in, but just like in a temporary way so I could remove it when we left. And then off that little vestibule was the laundry room, but then there was also this cupboard. This is how the cupboard looked when we moved in. It was full of crap. There was broken fluorescent light fixtures. There was, I think, old shoes. And we complained about it, and they said, oh, that's just how it's always been and that's how it's always going to be. We're not going to clear it out, which was kind of annoying. But I thought, what a waste of space. So I cleared it out and I painted it and I put extra shelves in and turned that into what we called the larder, just to differentiate between the pantry and that space in which we stored food. But I think it made a huge improvement and it was a lot of practical use. So okay, so that's the larder and the laundry room, and then going through the next door was the master bedroom. So it was kind of like a little annex of the house. It had space underneath it, not like a crawl space. There was a door to get in. Here's a picture of like the little door of how you could get in from the garden. You couldn't really stand up in it, but it was maybe like shoulder height in there. It was weird, but it was uninsulated. And then obviously 3 of the walls of the bedroom were exterior walls, and one of them had French doors. So that was a pretty cold bedroom, especially in winter. It was like camping. Anyway, this is how I decorated the bedroom. I just added a bit of color with cushions, and I got these lamps from Trade Me, and I put like a white braid over the gold stripe that was on them, and I covered lampshades and just made it comfortable for us. And it was lovely to lie there and kind of have the French doors open in summer and have the breeze come in and look outside at the space around the house. It was really nice. Okay, so going back to the dining room and starting to go down the corridor, this is how the corridor looked. And on the right was a bedroom, which I think was supposed to be the master bedroom, but we had chosen the other one because it was a little bit separate from the house, and Grant was on shifts and he could sleep there during the day without being disturbed by what was going on in the house. So there was a bedroom and there was the bathroom on the left. So I'll show you the bathroom first. This is how the bathroom looked. It had a bath, basin, toilet and shower. Quite basic. I did not enjoy that all of the walls were covered in cream plastic. I mean, that kind of plastic wall lining is very practical, but cream wasn't really my choice. Anyway, it was fine. There was a door from the bathroom leading into the laundry room, which that's what the other door is that you see. And then going back to that bedroom, it started out as the boys' playroom, I think. We had musical bedrooms in that house as well. So they started out sleeping in a smaller bedroom. Okay, I'll show you the smaller bedroom first. There was this tiny room, and we had the bunk beds in there, and we had like blackout fabric pinned up over the windows, and that is where the boys slept, so that the other big bedroom was their playroom. They had a TV in there, they could have all their toys in there, they could spread out, and they could just shut the door on that at the end of the day and go to bed. So later the boys both moved into the playroom, and that became their bedroom, and I had the smallest bedroom as my craft room, so that's how it looked as my craft room. And then eventually Daniel moved into that room, and that was his bedroom, and then the other bigger one was Noah's bedroom. So that's how those bedrooms ended up being switched around. And then there was one other bedroom which we had as like a spare bedroom, but Grant would spend a lot of time sleeping there as well, because that was actually further away from the kitchen and dining room where we were actually functioning during the day. And he could also come in at like 3 in the morning from a late shift and not disturb me, because like I said, I was having health problems, I was having sleeping problems. That's when my insomnia started. So if I'd finally actually got to sleep and then he came in off shift and woke me, that was really annoying. So he would come in off shift and have a room to go and sleep in. This was the view from the spare bedroom as well. Like the living room, it had a lovely view because it was kind of next to the living room. So now underneath the living room and the spare bedroom, if you went downstairs, there was a garage space there which led onto the driveway. So it was kind of split level at that side. I have actually filmed a house tour if you want to see a walkthrough and see kind of the flow of the house, so I will link that over here for you. We did enjoy the house, we were very happy there, we began to feel settled. Like I said, it was a place of healing for me. But the one thing we didn't like about the house was there was no indoor-outdoor flow. So from the kitchen, you would have to go through that little vestibule and out the back door, which was next to the master bedroom, to get into the backyard. And the only other way outside was the front door. So there wasn't really like you can sit in the living room and look out into the garden. There was none of that. We did use the backyard. I have memories of lying on the hammock between the trees. We had chickens at one stage. We had a dog at one stage. Like I said, we were getting settled, and then they began raising our rent. First of all, the landlord put in insulation, which was great. That made a big difference. He also put in a heat pump. Again, huge difference to actually have an insulated home with effective heating. So the heat pump was in the dining room area, and then there was another heat pump in the living room. After he did this though, he began raising the rent, which was frustrating because we had felt quite secure and settled. There was a section of the land at the back that he had said he was going to build his retirement property on, so we felt like he wasn't going to be selling the house anytime soon like our previous landlord had, and we were quite secure. But no, began raising the rent. So we started out at $390 a week, and the most they can raise that is $20, I think, and the soonest they can do that is every 6 months. But clockwork, every 6 months that rent was going up. So by the time we left after 2.5 years, it was up to $420 a week. Was it 420 or 440? I'm pretty sure it was 440, because I remember thinking that's $200 extra a month that we have to find. That's a lot of money, you know, to have to find every month extra. And we approached the landlord, or we approached the agency and said, look, we're good tenants, you know, we're reliable, we've made improvements to the property, we can't afford this, like we're gonna have to move if you keep raising the rent. And they basically said, screw you, we can get $540 a week. So we knew that that rent was just going to keep going up until it reached $540, because that's just how the agency was. Also, the agency used to come and inspect every 2 to 3 months. They would come and look around, they would look under our sink, they would take photos of everything. It was just horrible renting. We hated it. We just wanted to buy, but there was no way we could afford to buy. We couldn't even afford the rent. There was no way we could afford to buy in Auckland. Banks were asking for a 20% deposit, which buying up in Auckland, that meant you're looking at tens of thousands of dollars. Like we just didn't have it. So we wanted to move out of Auckland, but we just kind of didn't really know where to go to. And the rent raising was kind of the last straw. That was happening. I lost an income that I'd had, and we incurred other expenses, and because of that we had to actually rehome our dog. We just literally could not afford to have her, which was heartbreaking. It was completely heartbreaking. So we were in this position where finances were getting worse and worse and worse for us. We were dipping into our savings every month, and we wanted to move out of Auckland, but we just didn't really know where to go or where to even start looking. And then my friend in Pukekohe came over and she said to me, I'm just letting you know that we're leaving Pukekohe, we're leaving Auckland, and I'm moving back home. So we asked her where home was, and she said this tiny little town in South Taranaki. And Grant started asking her, tell me more about it. And the more she told us about this town, the more we realized it ticked everything on our wish list. It was exactly what we were looking for. And so we took a trip down to South Taranaki to have a look at this town. Could we envision ourselves living here? We could. It looked exactly like what we wanted. And so Grant put in for a transfer and asked to be able to move down to South Taranaki so that we could leave Auckland. We were told that they had too many positions filled and that it was going to be a long time before any kind of transfer would happen, but that he was on the waiting list basically. My mom was actually coming over to visit, and I said to Grant, if your transfer comes through, we're going to need to buy a house and make the move. But if mom's visiting, we can't just say, oh, we're going off to Taranaki to look at houses, so we need to go and look now. So we quickly jumped in the car. It just like worked out that that weekend was perfect with his shifts and everything that was happening. Jumped in the car, raced down, looked at every single house for sale in this tiny village, and we hadn't found anything that was perfect. And we had actually decided to buy a section and buy a separate house and have that house moved onto the section. We spent 2 days looking around the town, going up and down every street, looking at sections to buy, looking at houses. And as we were leaving, we went past the house that we're living in now, and there was a sign on the gate saying for sale by owner. So we kind of went in the gate and had a look around. The owners weren't there, and Grant phoned him because there was a phone number. And he told us the price that he wanted for the house, and it was over our budget. It was $10,000 over the top end of our budget, so we just said never mind. So we went back up to Pukekohe, and like I said, we were going to buy this section and buy this house. Now, when all the costs, like the quotes started coming in to buy the section, buy the house, have the house moved, all the utilities connected, and then we'd have to put in a driveway, we'd have to put in a garage, it was starting to edge up towards the top end of our budget anyway. And we realized that this house, that obviously, spoiler alert, we ended up buying, was actually a really good deal, the for sale by owner one. So we came down on another trip to actually view the house and look through it and realized it was perfect, but there was nothing we could do. We were not in a position to buy because we were waiting for Grant's job transfer. Eventually the transfer came through, and we phoned the guy and we put in an offer for $25,000 less than he was asking, which, when the houses are so cheap in this area, that was like a significant drop. But he was like done. He just wanted to take our offer and go ahead with it because he wasn't actually living in the house at the time. He'd already moved on and he just wanted rid of the house. So we had our low offer accepted. We were stoked. When we had our inspection on the house done, it turned out that it needed a new roof, so we negotiated another $9,000 off that. So this house was a steal. It was under $200,000. It's on half an acre, and we could not be happier here. We have 3 bedrooms, we have 1 bathroom and a laundry room with separate shower in, and then a kitchen, dining, living room. I have filmed a house tour. I will link that over here, but I'll just take you room by room and kind of talk about some of the things that we've done to change this house, because we were so happy to finally be homeowners for the first time in New Zealand and be able to do whatever we wanted to the house. So starting with the entrance hallway, this is how it looked when we first moved in, and this is how I've changed it. These are the things that we've done to it. This is how it looks now. This is our most recent decorating project, and I do have a full tour filmed, and I will link that over here for you. So on the right there are 3 doors. Those are the 3 bedrooms, and on the left there is a door to the living room. So going into the living room, we didn't really do much in there. This is how it looked when we first moved in, and you'll notice the hideous curtains. That is one thing that we have changed. We have ditched those curtains, put in curtain poles and new grey curtains, which I love. So the walls were already painted this kind of sand color. Oh, another thing that I did, the first thing, I think the first decorating thing I did shortly after we moved in was paint the fireplace. So this is how it looked at first. It was this big old brick monstrosity, and I painted it white, and I painted like the whole, like a dark charcoal color, and it made such a huge difference. It was so worth doing. It took about 5 coats, but it was worth doing. We still have plans to put in like a barn door the doorway onto the hall. I want to put a barn door there. We want to do a big built-in where the TV is, and I want to do like make better desks, but we just haven't tackled that yet. So moving from the living room onto the dining room, this room is complete now, and I'm not sure if I have uploaded a dining room tour yet or not by the time this video goes up. If I have, I'll link it here. If I haven't, then watch out for that. Subscribe to my channel because that will be coming soon. The changes we made in the dining room were replacing the curtains and fitting this vintage hanging basket as a light fitting. That's about all really, and then just like put things on the wall. In the corner of the dining room is my little desk area, and I absolutely love it. This is my little office space. The only thing I don't like about it is kind of really central to traffic, and when I'm trying to concentrate on things when my family's around, they keep talking to me or coming past me, and it's not somewhere I can retreat to work on things. But other than that, I love it. It works perfectly. We've customized the desk by adding like a shelf to put the CPU on and making the desk lower so that it's a comfortable height for me to type. And all of my goodies are where I need them to be. I do have a desk tour filmed, so I will link that here for you. Moving from the dining room into the kitchen, I loathe and detest these worktops. I just have to say that first off. The kitchen works fine, it's functional, except most of the doors are kind of falling off the hinges. It's just tired. But these worktops or countertops or bench tops or whatever you call them in your country, I absolutely hate them. And I have plans to upgrade them with paint, just as a temporary measure. Eventually we're going to replace the worktop. We're going to put in a built-in oven and a gas hob and new cupboard doors and hinges, but that's not just yet. So I'm going to make a temporary improvement by painting the bench tops, worktops, whatever, and replacing the handles. But this is how the kitchen looks now, and it works fine. I added the clock on the wall and the little cornice shelf, and that's about all really that we've done in there. Oh, we did replace the tap because the tap was disgusting when we moved in. Oh, one other thing we did do is paint the tiles. The tiles were, this is how they looked when we moved in. It had wood trim and it had like green, yellow and white tiles, and we painted them, and that made a big difference. Moving from the kitchen into the back end of the hallway, this is how it looks. It's like an L shape to the entrance hallway. Again, I have that video in which I've filmed a full tour so you can see what that's all about. So on the left is the door, the back door, and I painted that. You can see yellow shining through the window. The whole like little vestibule out there, which is where we keep our tumble dryer and vacuum cleaner, is bright yellow. So that's why the yellow light is shining through the window. I do need to paint that. We need to paint the exterior of the house. Anyway, so off that little section is the entrance to the laundry room. This is how the laundry room looked when we moved in. It has a shower and then the washing machine and a sink, and this is how it looks now. If you want to see a full tour, I have a laundry room, toilet and bathroom makeover reveal video, and I'll link that over here. The door that you see on the opposite side leads through to the toilet. So the toilet sits between the laundry / shower room and the bathroom. So this is how the bathroom looked when we first moved in. Cream cabinet, hideous tiles which are clown colors, and the wood trim, and the walls were blue, and there was a towel rail that on one end was fastened with a plaster, like a band-aid. That it was disgusting. So I painted in there, we fitted a new light fitting, painted the tiles, painted the cabinet, put new handles on the cabinet, and put up some artwork. And like I said, there is a full reveal video which I talked about when I was talking about the laundry room. So go and watch that if you want to see the full transformation and all of the details. Okay, so we're back to the entrance hallway where the 3 bedrooms lead off. So I'll start with my bedroom, or the master bedroom. In here we painted, replaced the curtain pole, like it was just a cheap rail with ugly curtains, so we replaced that with a curtain pole and curtains. I used 2 Kmart bowls to make a light fitting, put some art on the wall, and this room is pretty much complete, except I need to paint those closet doors. They still haven't been painted, and I need to replace the headboard. But other than that, it's pretty much done, and I will film a full like tour once that's been done. The next room is Daniel's room, which is the smallest of the 3 bedrooms, and this is how it looked when we first moved in. Very plain and small, and I did a full makeover there as well, and I have a full tour video of that if you want to see the reveal and all of the details. So this is how it looks now. Well, he's actually moved his bed, but this is how it looked after I decorated it, and I will link here to the video showing the full reveal. And then the last bedroom is Noah's bedroom. This room hasn't actually been decorated yet. This is how it looked when we moved in, and this is how it pretty much still looks. We have replaced the curtain rails with poles and charcoal curtains. That is one change we have made, and I have painted the window frames. But other than that, nothing's been done. We still need to decorate his room. I mentioned in our previous home that one of the things we didn't enjoy was that there was no indoor-outdoor flow. So that was high on our list of priorities when buying a house. And this house has the indoor-outdoor flow. We can look out onto the garden from the living room and the dining room. There's French windows, we can open those and just walk straight out, and we really enjoy that. So the garden is quite a big deal to me. I'm feeling settled for the first time in my life, and I can really get stuck in and create a garden and watch it change and grow over the years. I have filmed multiple garden tours. If you want to see how it looked when we first moved in, I will link here to a blog post with lots of pictures. And if you want to see the changes or how it looked probably at its best was my summer garden tour, and I will link that for you here. If I've run out of cards to link, because you can only link 5, then I won't link it here, I'll link it there down below. Everything I've talked about will be linked down below. But in the garden I have done quite a lot of work actually, and made a lot of changes. This is the section around the garage and the guest house, which I'll get to in a minute. But this is how it looked when we first moved in. There was a lot of stone, there were dead plants, and this is how it looked in the height of summer when it looked its best. It's not looking so full and colourful right now because we're at the end of winter, but that's how it looked at summer. And most of those flowers were grown from seeds, so I'm pretty proud of myself. Round the back, there was this hideous lean-to structure, and this is how it looked in that kind of back area. It was very open, you could see straight through into our property. Like I said, the horrible lean-to and piles of crap basically, and rubble, and it was a hot mess. There was this wire cage that used to be a chicken run. So what I've done there is I made the cage into my berry cage, and I put my strawberries and blueberries in there so the birds couldn't get to them. I built raised beds out of pallets. Look down below for a link on how I do that. I have filmed a tutorial on how I made my raised beds out of pallet wood. And we put on an extension to the guest house, I'll get to that in a minute, and transformed the last little piece of that lean-to into my greenhouse. So this is how my back section's looking now. That's my potager basically. We also clad the gate and the fence with iron so it's more private. Okay, the guest house. This is how this looked when we first moved in. It's half of a double garage, and it was just an empty shell which the previous owner had actually been using as a pub. So I'll insert a picture here to show you how he had it set up as a pub for his friends. But when we moved in, it had hideous layers of disgusting dirty carpet on the floor, and this huge picture of a man smoking in the mountain which said wasters on the wall, and that was it. It was just this bare shell, and we decided to turn that into basically a spare bedroom. The initial thought was a bedroom, and then it turned into a bedroom and a bathroom, and it's eventually become a bedroom, living space, kitchen and bathroom. That's how it looked when we first moved in. There was so much work along the way. We did most of the work ourselves, lining the walls. I did that myself. We cut a space for a window and a door. Grant did that. We put in flooring. Yeah, it was a huge amount of work. I have yet to film the reveal. It is finished now, thank goodness. It felt like it took forever, but it is finally finished, and I will film the reveal. I've run out of cards to link, but I will link it down below once that reveal video's been uploaded. But I have uploaded a full tour of the kitchen bathroom extension, so if you want to see that part of the guest house, I do have a video uploaded already, and I will link that down below. So like I said, that became the guest house. We went from this to this, and we now let it out for short-term lets, and that has been an amazing source of income. We were kind of astonished. We think we're living in this tiny town in South Taranaki. Who is going to come and stay here? We thought we'd get like a booking maybe every couple of months, and we've been 70 to 80% booked since we launched it in February, so that has been amazing. But that was so much fun to work on, and to pick all of the details and put everything together. Like, I had a vision in my mind and see it come together. There is one thing I still need to do. If you look at this picture, you'll see on the left there's like a canvas from the warehouse. I do want to put a long, like a panoramic canvas of one of the photos I've taken of Mount Taranaki there, but we haven't ordered that yet. The most rewarding thing for me about the guest house, besides the financial rewards, are when people leave feedback on the website or in the guest book or to me saying that they enjoy the attention to detail, because I was like, yes, I did put a lot of attention into the detail. So that brings us to where we are today. We are living in this house. We are quite happy here. We have no plans to move anywhere. Maybe one day we'll move somewhere if our kids move away and get married and have kids. We would want to be near our grandchildren. Please, I hope that that is not abroad, because I'm never immigrating again. I've done it twice and that's quite enough for anybody. But for now, we're happy where we are. We love our house. We love the garden. I love always having little projects to work on. It is time consuming and it takes a lot of energy to kind of maintain the home and garden, let alone make improvements, but I'm loving it. I hope you've enjoyed this series. I know it's been really long videos with lots of things to look at, but I hope that you found it interesting or entertaining. If you've made it all the way through all 3 videos, first of all, thank you. And second of all, leave me a comment saying home sweet home, and then I'll know you're a veteran who has done the full tour. If you have enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up because it does make a difference. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you next time.